Hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, it's so great to have you. Thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you enjoy the show. Well, I'm going to introduce you to another wonderful playwright. Her name is Kate Gill, and I'm thrilled that she's spending some time with us today. And Kate, thanks so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, Lauren Yarger, as you and I both know, and I just mentioned before we started taping, the co-founder of the League of Professional Theater Women, said she's the woman to have as a guest. So thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're a playwright. Why don't you tell us, what I like to do in the beginning of the show is to introduce the guest to the viewer. So why don't you take us back into your background? Let us get to know you. Introduce yourself.
Sure. I worked for over 30 years in advertising in New York City, and I began writing actually 20 years ago, 25 years ago, plays. And I found in my job in advertising, I was a strategist and a researcher. So I interviewed people, and I needed to understand their motivations and their feelings, their real feelings about the material, the communications I was researching. And it actually, I probably listened to thousands and thousands of people talking about their reactions to whatever I was showing them. And I think I really developed an ear for dialogue that way. And also, the insight is that a lot of times people don't know what they're feeling, or they can't express exactly what they're feeling. They need help, and they need to feel they're in a safe place. So that also helps inform a psychological understanding of things that people struggle with in terms of their internal life.
I have a lot of performers that watch the program. Did you think growing up at all that you would be a performer, an actor at all?
No, not an actor. I think I always thought I'd like to write. I have a degree in journalism from Fordham University. And then I went to the Annenberg School at the University of Pennsylvania and studied communications research. It was like a multidisciplinary approach to trying to understand issues in people communicating to each other. And it was very good training for then the research I went on to do.
So you went off to do advertising. Tell us what that world is like.
Oh, most of the time it was so stimulating and so much fun that people who are attracted to advertising are very creative and very bright, and we get to work on a lot of different projects, trying to understand a lot of different issues, and help people understand the things choices that they have when it comes to a product or a service. And I did a lot in healthcare, like the last 10 years. I helped found an agency, Eurotonic, which dealt in health and wellness. And so I have a strong background in understanding of that area as well. So yeah, I loved advertising, and I loved the people I worked with.
What made you decide to leave advertising? You said you spent 30 years there. What made you make the switch?
Oh, well, I guess part of it is advertising. You're old at 40, and I was laid off after, I guess I was 63, which means I really beat the odds. And that it freed me up. I realized now I can write full time if I want to. I did a lot of freelance initially, but then the pandemic happened and I moved up to Connecticut. I live in Gilbert. And I decided, no, I'm going to write full time now. And it's such a luxury to be a full-time playwright.
Well, when did that come into your life? I think you mentioned 25 years ago. What decided in your mind that you wanted to pursue being a playwright?
I always loved the theater, and I went to the theater as often as I could. When I was a student at Fordham, I'd take the train downtown. I was on the Bronx campus. And standing room at a Broadway show, I loved it. And I actually had started as an English major. So I studied a lot a lot of plays, actually, in some of the courses I took. And then I heard about a class, I guess when I was about 40. I heard about a class that someone said was really good at the writer's voice at the West Side Y in Manhattan. And Shiori Miyagawa, who's a fascinating Japanese playwright, taught the class, and she was great. She just very inspiring. And she really kind of sealed the deal for me. I said, yes, this is what I want to do. And so then I went on to take other classes. I studied with Glenn O'Malley, he was a playwright in primary stages. I studied with Forrest Stone. And I actually had the opportunity also to study story writing with Malachi McCord. I belong to the Irish American Writers and Artists Association, which he founded, and he was so generous, he gave us a free class on storytelling, which was wonderful. So yes, playwriting for me is just, it is a pleasure to be able to be creative and to be able to tell stories that are important to me.
And of course, we have people that watch that are from other mediums as well. Did you ever think about writing for film or television, video commercials, any other medium besides theater?
I've done a few ads when things were, really hectic. But no, I love the live experience of theater, the immediacy of it and the community of it. And also, I'm a member of the Dramatists Guild, and they have, it is a industry guild, and they have the clout to say you cannot change a playwright's play without their permission. And that's not the case in film or TV or in advertising. So it's one, I like the medium because it is so much about dialogue as well as not just, and there are visuals too, but the dialogue is there, and that's probably one of my biggest strengths. But yes, that's another thing too, that the playwright has more control in the theater than any of those other mediums.
So the term playwright just means for theater. What does it mean to you being a playwright?
It means that, and I started in Connecticut a circle group of playwrights to bounce ideas off and read each other's work and get feedback on. I think what it means to me is that I am able to practice my art and being able to also bring it to life on the stage. There are a lot of wonderful theater artists in Connecticut who generously share their time and do readings as well as some productions, and so that it's a strong community as well, that it has lasting friendships.
As a playwright, tell us what your process is to write a play. What's it like for you? Do you get a thought in your mind? Does it take weeks or months to write something? What's your inspiration?
Usually it's something I've heard that just surprises me. And then I start looking at it more closely. And oftentimes it's something that's about an injustice. And I think about, well, what would people living through that, what would happen to them? I wrote a play about men who worked a summer job in a nuclear power plant and became sick. And the inspiration of that was years ago, this little story in the New York Times about they were supposed to keep track of the people who worked that particular job and track their health, and oops, they lost the records. So I started thinking, and that made me start thinking about, well, what if I had been one of those people who worked in that plant? And the new play that I'm having the reading of, actually, what started me thinking about it was my brother worked for a company, and he told me that one of his coworkers had been fired for no reason, nothing to do with his job, but that his wife was sick and her medical bills were too high, and the company was self-insured. So they fired the man. And I thought, now that's not right. I mean, there's so much wrong with the medical system here in this country, but that really, and it then kind of sticks in my mind, and I start thinking about, well, what are the consequences of that for the people that are involved in that? You know, my process usually, I try and write sequentially and to get a full draft, but I'll take to my playwrights group scene by scene as I write it. And probably from the time I get the idea, someone was Edward Albee said, by the time you sit down and write your play, you should be able to take any one of your characters for an imaginary long walk on the beach and be able to have a meaningful conversation with them, that you know them that well. So there is a kind of an incubation period. And then when I start to write, I like the discipline of having a group that meets regularly, because then I have to have a scene ready. I need that structure. And so probably all told, it takes at least a year, probably, to write a play.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Well, listen, let's take a moment and we'll take a break and we'll be right back. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You're tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
You matter. And your words matter too.
Your words matter.
What you say in the hallways at school or in the student section at a game matters.
Words can be hurtful.
Words can be offensive.
Words can leave scars.
Words can also inspire,
support, and uplift.
You and your words.
Are they both important?
As a matter of fact, yes.
I'm a firefighter and a son and a husband.
I'm a highway maintainer and a chef.
I'm a state trooper and a white belt in jiu-jitsu. We all have a life outside of work.
And we don't want to lose it.
So when you see our vehicles on the side of the road,
slow down and move over.
Slow down and move over.
It's the law.
And it can save a life.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, it's so great to have you. My conversation continues on with Kate Gill. And Kate, one of the reasons that you're here is that something is being premiered. Why don't you tell us about the play that you're doing?
Yes, I'm going to have a staged reading of my new play called Americaring, and it's going to be in New Haven at the Greater New Haven. It's called The Sandbox, and it's at 70 Audubon Street. And it's a play, as I was saying, it's about what happens when a family the father is fired and the mother dies, and there are 3 children left. And the father, unfortunately, becomes alcoholic, and the kids have to fend for themselves. I have some wonderfully young actors. Very, very good. They do a lot of local work. And Frank Licata, who I've known for 30 years because we met at the same advertising agency. He's a director and an actor, and he is the artistic director of Hudson Theater Works in New Jersey. And I've worked with him on and off for years for readings and play productions in New York. So he's come up to rehearse in New Haven with us as well.
Well, that talks to us about 2025. Do you have any other thoughts about what will happen in the rest of 2025? Have you even thought about 2026?
I think about 2025 a lot, and actually Frank and I were talking about it this weekend. The funding for the arts, it's going to be very, very tough. And the Greater New Haven Arts Council is everyone's concerned about, where the grant money from the federal government might disappear and what the implications of that are for the arts. And I think, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I think there's a big financial worry there.
Well, that's a good thought, right? That's a good thought right now about grant money. How do you fund your plays? Do you send away to get federal funds for that?
No, I don't. I don't get grants for my work. I self-fund, or I actually, charge the audience sometimes if it's full production. You have ticket sales. It's difficult. I've had shows off Broadway, and I've learned to do the producer's job. Actually, there's some pluses to it in addition to some minuses. The producer really has a lot of decision making to do, which can impact a play's performance. And I've gotten kind of used to making those decisions myself. And so self-producing actually is, for me, a satisfying experience. It's also terrifically hard for me. And that's not probably the thing I'm best at, but you do it, and I've been so pleased with the results, and I've gotten a lot of work out there.
Now, you've mentioned that you have some other playwrights that are in your life that you talk to about your work. Do you recommend getting involved with other playwrights to indeed talk about your work?
Absolutely. Because I have a group in New York as well, but we went on Zoom because of the pandemic. And then I wanted to start one up in Connecticut, the Circle Playwrights. And it's so helpful. It's a great group of very talented people, and their feedback is wonderful. And again, you need to hear your work, and so we read each other's work aloud and take parts. A lot of the playwrights do have acting training, and it's so helpful to the process to be able to have that experience, and then to get the quality feedback of people who are so talented, and their craft is so strong.
Now, you're mentioning that what's coming up is a staged reading. What does that mean?
It means that the actors will be carrying a script, and they will be referring to the script. It hasn't been memorized, and usually there's very little in terms of props or sets of any kind. So a lot of it's going to be the audience's imagination, but I think after the first 5 minutes, they're into the play, and they've forgotten about everyone's carrying a script around. And staged means that they will move around. There's a sit-down reading where everyone just sits, and it's really just the dialogue. But there'll be movement so that you can probably get a better idea about what a final staging would look like. And I think it adds a lot to have that movement. And we also, Donald Stark did some sound design for the play. And I think that really helps people get more into the reading as well.
Now, you're a member of the Connecticut chapter of the League of Professional Theater Women. How has it been for you to be in part of an organization? Do you recommend that somebody get involved in something like that?
Oh, absolutely. I've met such wonderful people. They're so supportive, and they're so smart. And it's multidisciplinary. So you have actors, you have producers, you have technical people, and then you have writers. And it's really, really a good group. I belonged to the League down in New York when I was living in New York. And of course, I was working then too. I didn't have as much time. But I've really tried to go to as many activities as I can with the League, because they do great work, and bringing us together that way is a wonderful thing.
What is the process of somebody being able to clarify themselves as a playwright? What do you need to do to be able to have that title?
Oh, I think, even before I was in the Dramatists Guild, I considered myself a playwright. You have to have written a play, it could be 10 minutes, I think, and then you're a playwright. And it's a journey as you try and get more and more skilled at it, and as you learn more and more. But the Dramatists Guild, you have to have had a professional production to join a full member of the Dramatists Guild. You can become an associate member. So I think that, I know in the beginning it was hard for me to say I was a playwright because maybe I didn't feel so legitimate because I'd only written some short plays. But that goes away, and you say it fine after a few times.
Now, in your life, you're at a certain point in your life and you've been writing for a while. Do you think that this is going to be part of your life for the rest of your life? Will you continue to write plays?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Some of the most wonderful playwrights I know are in their late 80s. I think creativity is something that taps into a part of you that is energized, and dare I say youthful, that it's something you can do your whole life. And I think people should, as they're aging, find a way to be creative. It's good. It feels good, and it gives you, as I said, an energy too.
How about some advice to somebody that would like to be pursuing a path such as yours to become a playwright? What do you think they should do? You mentioned education. Is that something to look at as well?
Absolutely. I've gotten so much from the playwriting courses I've taken with other playwrights who are very established. And the class also gives you a structure too, so that you write regularly, and you produce more work that way. So I would definitely recommend that people take classes and to try and get recommendations about what kind of teacher they are. And I've been very lucky. I've loved all the teachers that I've had, but yeah, I think education is part of it. You have to learn some things by doing too, but I think starting with classes is a good way to go.
Now, you're based in Connecticut now, if I'm correct on that. Is there a path of getting your play out there? Are you just Connecticut-based with putting your plays out into the different theaters that are here?
Yes. I try and stay in touch with the different theaters in Connecticut. But they're also online. There are a lot of playwrights groups on Facebook and just with websites, and they will list opportunities. There's a lot of theater looking for new work, and you can, in fact, get lists of what kind of work they're looking for and what the deadline is, and you can send, email your script to them. So I know some people who really do that an enormous amount and have pretty good luck of getting productions across the country. I probably don't submit as much as I did, or perhaps as I should, but I'm happy with the work I have had, and I do want to put more of the work into the writing than into the business part, the submitting part. But also, I probably know now what theaters would maybe like the kind of writing I do. That's something you need to do a little research on the theaters and to see if you would be a good fit with them, because different theaters, have different ideas of what they want to produce.
Your ideas, they come from a certain point of view. What are you looking for to do in the plays that you're thinking of doing in the future? Do they still have a message?
Yeah, I guess they do. But I don't want to tell people how to think. I just want to tell them a story, and they'll have their own reaction to it. I'm working on a new play, actually, about Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. I family lived down there before Katrina. And again, what struck me and stopped me in my tracks was there's a animal rescue group, Best Friends, out in Utah, that did a big rescue effort for the pets in Katrina, and they did film about it, and they did a book. And I said, they were so together about it, they know how to do this, they came and they did it. And if you look at what the government response was to the people, I said the animal people were much better organized than acting for the people. And I said, what is this telling me?
Okay, Kate, we've run out of time, so I want to thank you very much for being here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
And I'm Deborah Gilbert. You've been tuned into Arts and Entertainment. In case you need to reach me, I'm at artsandentertainment@mail.com. Well, I hope you have a super day today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.